Alright, what's cracking with y'all? It's your boy Prince, the Hustle God, aka Wise the Warlock, and we reaching in our combat tool bag one more again. It is a cold black affair. Shout out to the mighty LDBC, LDBC only, LDBC everywhere. Alright, so this is a part 2 to the yin-yang twins of boxing. In this video, I want to draw some parallels between right now with like the two most feared men in boxing, and that's Earl the Truth Spence Jr. and Devin the Dream Haney, aka Black Jesus. So let's go back. Before Earl Spence was unified, before Earl Spence had one belt, the IBF, even that, Earl Spence was a prospect who was a touted prospect, obviously an Olympian who hit the ground running, several fights a year, crushing the game. And immediately, once he got in the rankings, he began calling out all of the big names in his division. And every one of them seemed to collectively come together to try to recycle the same sayings to avoid or duck him. Like, he's nobody yet, or he has nothing to offer yet, and blah, blah, blah. But it was like recycled excuses. They would all, whether it was Keith Thurman or Sean Porter or Danny Garcia, they would all have similar excuses. I'm trying to fight the champions. I'm trying to fight the champions. And then once he even became a champion, by beating Kell Brook, he even then couldn't get people to fight him, other champions to fight him. So hence the Mikey Garcia fight. He even stated he wouldn't have fought Mikey Garcia if the other champions would have fought him. But people overlooked that as well. So we have literally, before Boots Ennis, before the Conor Benns or the Virgil Ortizes of the world, we had the actual boogeyman, the most feared, the most ducked guy in the welterweight division. Now, if we drop down 2 divisions, just 2, and we go from Texas to the Bay Area, we look at Devin, Black Jesus, the Dream Haney. And when he first got into the game, I mean, he was not an Olympian. He is the godson of Zeb Judah. He was raised around boxing. He started young, like traditional boxers do, except he was literally raised in the golden hands, if you will. So if you look at the fact that Roy Jones had an influence on Devin Haney, Floyd Sr. had an influence on Devin Haney. I'm trying to think if it was, yes, it was Mike McCallum had an influence on Devin Haney, and the list goes on, and not just an influence. I mean, these were his trainers in his early development. So the saying, "You've made a monster," they actually made a monster, developed a beast. And then we see Devin Haney take a hard route. Now, hard route meaning he didn't sign to any major promoter. He racked up his own fights. He promoted himself, and then eventually made a partnership deal with DAZN. Long story short, he became ranked. He became a name in the lightweight division. And from that point forward, it was all guns a-blazing, just like Earl Spence. He called out Lomachenko. He called out Teofimo, who at the time was undefeated and was a person who they compared to say that was on his level. Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, all of those what they consider the best lightweights. Devin Haney has called them out and actively tried to pursue fights with them. It's gotten to the point where the guys would try to steal Devin Haney's opponent. Like, multiple guys would try to fight the guy that Devin Haney would announce he's going to fight next as his backup because the names won't fight him. So it got real ugly. And then when Devin Haney became champion, just the WBC champion, there were 1,000,001 excuses, just like with Earl Spence. It was like they collectively colluded to recycle the same excuses. He's an email champ, or he didn't win that belt in the ring, and then he wins all of the belts. He's literally the undisputed champion of 135 and the first in the 4-belt era in history of boxing. And you have all of the other champions or names. Well, I actually not champions, just names in the lightweight division, and he's still chasing them. In boxing, when you become champion, the tradition is the hunter who was a contender who became not only a title holder but the man, the champion. The roles get reversed. That means the new contenders or the current contenders are now seeking what you have as the champion, which is plain and simple. I mean, but the it's like there's a community of people in boxing in which they don't want what's best for boxing or even what's most entertaining for them, and that is to get the best to fight the best. But but that in itself is the reason and why we see the parallel between someone like Devin Haney and Earl Spence. So where are we today? We have Earl Spence in negotiations, which he's beat Yordenis Ugas in April, and we are now well into July, and we have heard nothing from Terrence Crawford since. Where you at, Earl? I'm in the water looking for you. We really haven't heard anything from Team Bud since his sister said pick a side, and that's the only fight left. And that's supposed to be the biggest fight in boxing. This is supposed to be the man who was hunting or chasing Earl Spence. And now that the man has a contract, the rumors were he needed a rematch, and maybe he's pricing himself out. Regardless, we still have no announcement about what's going on with the undisputed matchup for 147. So the most ducked man seems to be getting ducked by the person who claims to be hunting him mid-negotiations. And then you have Devin Haney, on the other hand, who he stated, basically calling Tank's bluff, that there's no reason for you to leave your promoter. If you're not going to make the big fights, you may as well be loyal to Floyd. Tank, in an emotional response, screams out he's going to fight you next. He's going to fight Dev next if he wins. Dev has won. He's been undisputed for some time now. And the Tank Protection Committee, just like the little buddy children of the Corn Huskers, they have nothing to say about the current events. All they do is deflect, play in semantics, or dismiss it entirely. So, in this part 2 of Yin Yang Twins of Boxing, we're talking about the positive side, and yet this video can't even be 100% positive because the antagonists of the story, if you will, kind of put a damper on that, and that is Tank Davis and Terrence Crawford, the original Yin Yang Twins of Boxing, for all the bad reasons. But that stated, I thought I'd give you just a little something slightly informative and draw some parallels between what would be two undisputed fighters in a 4-belt era, only separated by 2 weight classes. But I can't even state that because we haven't even gotten ink on the deal, let alone the actual undisputed fight at welterweight. But that said, Devin Haney, you've achieved legendary status. Earl Spence, you've also achieved legendary status. I would state, if the plan is to continue and the guy, little buddy, keeps playing, I would say fight Jerome Boutinnis or move up. Don't even waste your time. I mean, there's going to be 2 audiences in the history of boxing at the end of the day, and it may be like Manny Pacquiao and Floyd, but what they're going to see is that you offered the man a contract and then he went silent. So, I mean, 1 + 1 is 2. So till next time, guys, shout out to the mighty LDBC only, LDBC everywhere. It is a code black affair. Check out the Simple Truth Network. Check out Black Gents Grooming Company, TrillTalk.net, and everything LDBC. Deuces.